Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions. This one comes via YouTube, and Mouse Warrior prefaces the hand by saying, "Here's a hand I'm quite happy with. It's heads up, but it's a quite aggressive value line. Would be interesting to hear what you think of it. So let's check it out." Okay, so this hand was played at 15 to limit heads up, and this was sent using the Boom player on PokerStars. And in this situation, we open from the button with 8-9, pretty standard, and I'm getting called, okay. And just for the record, as we go through this, I am not a heads-up specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a major concept in this hand that I wanted to discuss, which is the only reason why we're here. So in this situation, it goes check-check on the flop, and not saying that's necessarily a terrible thing, but be very aware of that as the hand goes through. We have to remember that this flop went check-check because that's going to kind of dictate everything as we go forward. So when we improve on the turn, we face a bet and hero decides to raise. So nothing too shocking so far. I'm happy to see that we're raising. I think size-wise this could be a little bit larger. But one thing you have to be really aware of here is what you represent after taking this line of raise preflop, check flop, and then raise turn, especially on this specific kind of texture. Because if you had a hand like ace-king, do you check behind on the flop? If you had a hand like ace-queen or king-queen or king-jack or any of those kind of hands, do you check behind on the flop? Or when you get to the turn here after the flop goes check-check, do you realistically mostly have things like 8-9, but also like naked king-x or naked 9x where you're just semi-bluffing, or backdoor hearts where you're just trying to get aggressive? So be very cognizant of what you rep and how many monster hands you have in your range, because if you're going to bet the flop with queen x, jack x, two pairs, sets, all those kind of things, you don't probably have a tremendous amount of monster hands here, which is definitely something you want to keep in mind. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but you have to keep that in mind as the hand goes on. Okay, so at this point, the hand player 2 decides to call, go heads up to the river, he checks, and hero now decides to bet. And at this stage in the hand, Mouse Warrior says, "I overbet the river because all draws missed the river, and I felt like the villain might hero call with a lot of hands versus that bet. Overbetting is certainly a concept I would love to learn more about." So this is actually the point in the hand that I wanted to talk about the most, because I think this is the most important. I do think overbetting is something that a lot of players should explore more often, but definitely do not. So let's talk about this for a very quick moment. If we're going to overbet here, we have to think about a couple of different things. What does player 2 realistically have, and where is that point of inelasticity? So in this situation, does player 2 have something like ace-king? No, they would have 3-bet a preflop. Do they have something like the straight? No, probably not. So we're probably looking at something that is super capped at 2 pair, and more realistically is probably going to be 1 pair more often, if nothing else just on a pure combo scale. So let's go with that assumption. And the main question you have to ask yourself is, okay, if I bet, say, pot size, will I get looked up by Jack X, Queen X, whatever it is, because they either won't believe me or they simply have no fold button, whatever it is, will they continue with those second best hands? And then if the answer is yes, then the question needs to be, okay, what if I bet for 1750? If yes, what if I bet for 22? If yes, what if I bet for 30? And you continue that. So when you get to a situation where you're going to overbet, I always wonder why people overbet just slightly more than the pot. And this is really just kind of just more than the pot, right? The pot's 1450, this is only 1750. A real legitimate overbet would be something like 20 bucks here, or double pot, or something like that. So I think this is a little bit small for an overbet, because if you think they will call with Queen X for 1750, why wouldn't they also call 20? Right? There's only a $2.50 difference there. Chances are they're going to be pretty inelastic between those two numbers. So that is like the basic building block of overbetting is, at what point will I not get second best hands to continue anywhere near enough at the time? And then of course there's, a complex EV equation we can run there. But realistically, that's the conversation you want to have. If they will call 1750, would they call 20? And then keep having that conversation until you start to find friction, do a basic estimation of math, good to go, rock and roll. So that's kind of just the basic building block of overbetting. But if you start there, it's a much, much better place, and you're going to find much better bet sizes rather than just going slightly over pot in a situation where you probably could have gone much larger. So all that being said, we do end up betting 1750, we do end up getting the call, and we do end up shipping a nice sized pot. But again, major consideration about that exact bet sizing on the river. Overbetting looks okay, but could it have been a little bit larger? So Mouse Warrior, thanks for the hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box, and also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.